back in the 18th century, there were a whole bunch of new rabbis who were getting started. They were getting started with a new approach to being Jewish, and what that meant, it meant that you didn't have to worry so much about every little bit of this rule or that rule. What really mattered to these rabbis was that you worshiped with intention, that you wanted to be closer to God. It wasn't so much which rule you were following or how well you were following it, but did you really just want to get close to God? And of course, there were other rabbis, since we're talking about Judaism, who thought that was completely the wrong thing to do. So we had lots of good arguments going on about whether what was mattered most, your intention or your action. But one of the greatest of those who prayed with intention was Rabbi Levi Yitzhak of Berdichev. Now, this was a man who prayed with such enthusiasm that he was dangerous. Now, I'm serious, okay? He would get into the synagogue and he would start bowing and shuckling, and if he started in this corner of the room, he was over in that corner within the hour. He just was bouncing all over the place. Whenever it was time to read the scriptures, and in the scripture it said, "And God spoke," he would say, "God spoke! God spoke! Can you imagine? God spoke! Wow, God spoke!" So, he prayed with intention. On the other hand, there was a rabbi named Rabbi Baruch, and he was kind of the opposite. We had to be serious. Our study had to be serious. We had to sit and read and make sure that we got everything right. And so they were kind of at opposite ends of the spectrum. Now, they had some respect for each other, and in fact, Rabbi Levi had tremendous respect for Rabbi Baruch. But he was not really allowed inside of Rabbi Baruch's circle because he was just too wild. So he decided he would really like to have a meal with Rabbi Baruch. Maybe if they just could have a dinner together, they could start to understand each other, right? So he had his disciples talk to Baruch's disciples and try and get something together. My people will call, your people will do lunch. And at first, Baruch didn't want to have anything to do with it, but he was won over by Levi's, genuine enthusiasm for meeting with him. And he said, "Okay, you can come for dinner, but we have to have an understanding. You're going to keep it down. None of this stuff going on. We're going to have a nice Shabbat dinner. We'll say our prayers. We'll say them in one place. Everything will be fine, and we'll talk." So the day comes, and all of the disciples are gathered together. They're at the table, and at one end is Rabbi Baruch. And Rabbi Levi has said to himself, "I know I can handle this because I'm not going to move." Right? When the prayers start, I'm just going to stand there, and everything will be okay. So they make the first prayer, the prayer for wine, and he's standing there like this, and he's moving a little bit, but he keeps it under control. And everybody's impressed. They've never seen him do that before. They get through the prayers. There's been no damage. It's pretty good. They all sit down, and dinner starts to be served. Now, the first course of dinner traditionally is fish. Now, this is a Jewish dinner, so there has to be more than one kind, and there has to be an argument about which is the better kind, sweet or sour. All right? So in order to make peace, a lot of people will serve a tray that has both sweet and sour fish on it, just to kind of smooth everything over. And the waiter steps up behind Levi, puts the tray in front of him, and said, "Which do you love, sweet or sour?" And it happened. "Sweet and sour, who cares? I love God!" His hands hit the tray. The tray starts to spiral. the sweet fish and the sour fish with their sweet sauce and their sour sauce go tumbling through the air and land smack dab on Rabbi Baruch's talis. The room goes quiet. This is the worst, right? You don't stain the rabbi's talis. And they go over and they get ready to kind of clean him up, and oh my God, we're going to take care of it, it's going to be okay. And Rabbi Baruch says, don't touch this talis. I have never seen such holiness. I will be buried in this talis without it ever being cleaned. And that's how Rabbi Baruch and Rabbi Yitzhak of Berdichev became fast friends.